Okay, hello. Hello, dear friends, or dear friends from the unknown. Here is Mudra, and I'm going to publish this eighth video, which is not a video actually, because I decided to mainly record podcasts. Anyway, it will become some kind of an image with video, not video, but photos and audio speaking on YouTube. And this is what this is about. This eighth section is going to be about what is going to happen, because I'm going along with this spontaneously. This is intuitive Dharma study with the blessings of Ringo Tulku Rinpoche, my master, my main instructor nowadays. In the same time I am training my English speaking, and so I started this series of videos and podcasts, and now I'm going to explain to you how this goes. Okay, so on YouTube we will have the first videos, and this is number 8 of this series about ground, path and fruit. And in the same time, I'm going to transform as much as I can, maybe not quick, but slowly, all the videos into podcast on SoundCloud. My channel is Nyakma Yuma Mudra on SoundCloud. And hopefully I will also publish the links and maybe other links also under each video, as I already promised. This goes slow because I'm not a professional, and I'm not doing these things as a professional. I'm training to share my experience and to find ways to do it as appealing as possible without struggling into technological complications. And that it could be possible to do it with little means or maybe little time sometimes. So this is it. So I have been thinking about all these videos, and of course intuitive Dharma study, as it is called, it's intuitive because there is a lot of working on your first thought, best thought. And of course when you work with your first thought, best thought, you work as much as possible from the space within your own consciousness, which is not stained by agendas and not stained somehow by fear and hopes. But anyway, we do have these, so we shouldn't also be too much worried about if we are stained or not. But in the same time, it's always a paradox. In the same time, there is some kind of a little effort to reach a place inside of oneself and one's own consciousness where not only you prepared your body to be properly a container for the experience, but also one-pointed mind, which would make as much as possible your mind completely absorbed by what it is you are practicing, or what is it you are sharing, or what it is you are some kind of creating sometimes. And this first thought, best thought, which comes out, can also come out thanks to the symbols of the daily life. So this is the 8th video, so this is like a recap, no? It's a recap of what has been happening and what is planned to happen next, hopefully. And so this first thought, best thought is that symbols of your daily life give you some kind of clues about how to keep on your string. Like if you had a string, I talked about that in last chapter. If you have a string and you are going through your labyrinth, you need a string. Suddenly I don't remember if I talked about this in the English chapter or in the French one anyway. Because on SoundCloud I'm also publishing a French podcast about my book, which is not yet translated in English. In French it's called La Voix qui danse. Anyway, let's say that there's a labyrinth in our brain or in our intestine, and you need a string so that you can go along and not get lost in there. That you don't, it's not like if you were, how you say that in English. It's not like if you were stiff and in some kind of a prison, a jail, that you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Of course, you keep some kind of a freedom, and I'm actually addressing very much to people who have this need of finding their cultural passion into practicing the Dharma, which was preserved for more than 1,000 years and even elaborated by the Tibetan noble people of Tibet, who did such an incredible offering to the world. And I am very much grateful and very much serving this the best I can. So, of course, as a Westerner, which I am kind of, even if not completely, I do feel that in the same time I'm in love with the Tibetan culture, and in the same time I'm not a Tibetan. I was not raised in a Tibetan family. So there are needs for me to identify not my ego, but more my kind of joyful experience of doing the practice. And so I need this first thought, best thought, because I'm not entangled with the fact that I should do things exactly as a Tibetan would do, or as an Indian would do, or whoever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I can just do them the way I feel it is appropriate, in the sense that I am sincere and not biased in relationship with the basics truth of how the Dharma gives me a pattern and gives me a frame with which I could work. Like, I give you an example. If you have a rhythm, let's say it's a very simple rhythm, like pum 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 pum, and you sing on that. This frame is something that gives you a lot of freedom. You can sing, you can improvise a song on this, and in the same time you are not completely going away from that frame of rhythm. Why? Because it gives you the possibility to communicate, because other people can easily understand and can get in that train. So when you're doing first thought, best thought, and you're following the symbols, it means that your everyday life may give you sometimes a clue about how to go on with your task without being entangled, but without being on the other side making up your all kind of fantasist, narcissistic interpretation. And so I noticed that actually so far we have been working okay. It's good. I think it's not too bad. It can be improved, of course. Now I feel also that it is needed for people who follow this to refer to proper tools. So that's why I told you about that book, The Words of My Perfect Teacher, and to be aware as you read the book that it does have a different tone as you go along from the beginning to the end, because the practice itself changes the tone, the vision of how your environment becomes wider. It becomes more, like in the beginning it's a little bit narrow. No, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. It's just to give some kind of a help so that we can work on habitual tendencies, which is the whole thing about practice. It's nothing else. Habitual tendencies is how our body became completely full of habits and completely full of reaction related to the habits, and also memories that are kind of storage. They're the storage of that in our own DNA, but also there's a storage of that also coming from all beings in all the 5 elements that our body does welcome in and lets go out. Like water you drink, all the water you drink comes from all beings and has been through all the rivers and all the oceans and has been in all the skies and the clouds. So without making this too much conceptual, understand how much the water that goes and comes in your body is relating you to all the waters of going through all beings forever, since ever. And that forever, since ever, is now. So there's always the paradox, no? It's not just linear. Linear is relative, and absolute is not linear. And so the same thing about the earth. the food and all the solid in our body. It's, of course, our own habitual tendencies, which is how did we get used to think a certain way, to react a certain way, to interpret a certain way, to perceive things a certain way. But how, on another hand, it is also how is it that we are taking advantage of the coming in of all beings through earth, which is mainly food, but it could be also smells. Of course, smells is also wind, so the wind is very much so. So, air is not just an empty nothing, it's full of informations, and these informations comes and go. And you're the one in charge somehow, through that body of yours, to make your own job about that. If you don't do that job, why would you expect other people to do their own jobs, isn't it? So, not really completely useful to be too much focused on the outside complaining about things or about politics. Of course, you do your best, but at one point, if you don't do your own job about how the water, the earth, and the air comes and goes in your own body, and how your DNA gives you a way to react, a way to think, and how you can sort of make that more and more in relationship with the core nature of your own consciousness, which is not your own, of course. It's just your own from the point of view of yourself. And so it is true that going through us, through water, through air, and through earth, is all what all beings live, isn't it? And the light is the fire, the light is the warmth. So the body is warm, that's what makes you alive, no? As a mammal. Otherwise, if you were cold blood, you would not be human. So even if some human believe to be cold, actually they're not. They usually have 36 to 38 degrees. If they're healthy, then let's say 37. And so this warmth is what makes us alive, and that is related to the warmth and the light. The light is what makes us see. It what makes us also be able to see colors as a human being. Of course, don't forget other beings maybe see other way, but we see these colors, these forms, and that's the light. And so this is also very important, because the light somehow is halfway between your solid body and your consciousness, the nature of your mind. Of course, we would have to, in the future, agree upon how we call each things. No, how do we call in English or in Portuguese or in French or in Spanish or in Italian? German, I don't know German, but anyway. How do we call mind, consciousness, spirit, all these words? That's another topic we will have to go about. Anyway, so intuitive Dharma study. The intuition is that. The intuition is that you know you have this tool, you know you're working on your habitual tendencies, you need to be happy about practicing, because if you don't enjoy, if you don't get involved, and that doesn't mean you don't cry, doesn't mean you don't suffer, it just means that, when you like something you can suffer about it, because you love, when you are full of love, of course. So this aspect of passion is positive. It what makes you have a drive, the fuel, to do your practice full-heartedly and not start to get involved with these things. No, I can't, I don't have time, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Don't let yourself involved. You don't have time for that, because nowadays there's no time. There has never been, but nowadays it's more obvious, isn't it? You don't know if tomorrow you will still have a proper situation to go fully into your practice and to get rid of whatever it is that makes your perceptions, your reactions, your communication with the world biased. What you are looking forward is not really a goal in the sense that you would become something else. It's more that you are working on getting rid of things that are absolutely not needed. So it is like kind of creating a filter. And as these habits are very strong and old and like rooted in millions of billions of space, time, and people that's in your body. So you really need to work on all fronts. All fronts is, of course, your eyes, your ears, everything, and all fronts is also your body, your speech, your mind, and all fronts is also to create good situation, which is merit. And all this is completely clearly coached by the Dharma teachings. So the Dharma teaching at the beginner level, they do coach oneself on knowing what's proper. Like it's not really proper, for example, as a woman, and here I'm going to dare to say it, it's not really proper to not think a little bit further about what is the implication of an abortion and what is your frame of mind when you claim that you as a woman can do whatever you want. Yes, of course, you can do whatever you want as much as anybody else. It's not because you're a woman, it's just because everybody has the right to do whatever he wants. Now, we're not saying you don't have the right, we're saying the consequences. Because Buddhism doesn't care about creating some kind of a social justice. It's not at all the topic of the Dharma. Dharma just adapts to whatever is there, because people who create these rules have their mind orientated most of the time towards the outside, helping people from outside. But if you are diving into your practice, as I am proposing as an artist of life and as somebody who is looking forward to have some connection with your enormous, immense, never-ending, never-starting inner life. The invisible yourself is what we call consciousness. That's what we don't know what it is. That's why we call it something. So we know that we have consciousness that is not conscious and consciousness that is conscious. And even sometimes we get conscious of something that we didn't have conscious of, but we somehow feel that we did. It was like if we were avoiding to. So all this process, the Dharma helps you because it's in the same time, step by step, second by second, and in the same time, it's all in the same time, it's everything. And so you need this passion, this like feeling concerned about it. So this is intuition. And from the intuition, you have this first thought, best thought. Comes out of yourself the best you can, not biased, not creating your first thought out of some agenda, but maybe at least one agenda could be that you are doing your best to help yourself and help all beings. That's a good one. It's still a biased, but it's a good one. Yeah, until that one will just dissolve naturally. Because Dharma is like that. One step, and slowly when you realize that practice does not become some kind of a place where you can assert some narcissistic ego trip. That's how things should be done. Dharma is what I'm talking about, and then study. Study is that, of course, you need a little bit of coaching. So, of course, you can meet people who help you. We already said you can use your instinct and your intuition to choose people, but also you study the people and you listen to the people and you really take time to see if that person is not somebody that you choose to make judgment about or to have expectations about, but is somebody that you really, truly trust to give you the coaching you need. May that be coaching that looks so sweet, or may that be coaching that looks not sweet. Because sometimes, you know that. When you learn things, sometimes you need somebody who pushes on you. And maybe also sometimes you need some kind of a challenge or some kind of a hardship. And that person can give you some of that because you need it. That's why you choose that person before you start trusting. But at one point you have to trust, because you can also acknowledge that whatever comes to you, that's what you deserve. Of course you choose, but you also have the fact that nothing can happen to you that is not your karma. It's not possible at all that anything could happen to you that is not fair. It's always fair, because it's always fair for everybody and everything. Everything happens out of some kind of a magical display of how things are come from causes and consequences, creating again and again and again situations where we suffer or not. So that's why the nirvana is not under the rules of samsara, but it is of course happening in the same place. So samsara and nirvana are not apart one from the other. So how do you find this coaching? It's not only somebody, it's that you yourself have to become that somebody. Of course your coach helps you, your guru helps you, maybe you can melt your mind with your guru's mind, that's wonderful, but if that's not yet happening, you need to know how to behave on a daily basis. You're not going to call your guru every 5 minutes to ask him how to wash your clothes and how to do this and how to do that. So you have to know about what does it mean not to kill. So if I come back to the abortion things and the women, first of all, if you are pregnant, it's because, of course, it could happen that you were a victim. That's another topic that I'm not going to talk about today. That can happen, but even if you are a victim of something, that doesn't mean your mind is a victim of anything. So this is very important. You need to reassert your own power as a person, that your mind is free, and it doesn't matter even if anything happened to you. You must trust that you have the ability to transform that, and you have the ability to overcome that, and you have the ability to develop fully as a great, compassionate, loving being, even though things happen to you, because that is true. That's why you're a human being. If you're not a human being, it's not possible for you. But if you are a human being, which means that you do trust and study the Dharma, otherwise you would not listen to me now, that means that you are fully empowered to be able to answer to whatever kind of challenges happens to you in your life or in your past, and help yourself to go through that, to heal that, of course, but never is it necessary for you to belittle yourself as a victim, or to jump from that belittling yourself as a victim to become some kind of a hunter going after whoever you think are bad people. So this is not the Dharma. And if you're a woman, it's not the Dharma for you, and it's not for a man neither. So it's not because you're a woman that it's proper for you to become completely hunting people and always trying to find some kind of a guilt on whoever that is, just because you think that you are a victim as a woman. So I want to assert this, because I think it's very wrong. On the other hand, as a woman, you don't need to obey to whatever you feel is not right. Just as a man, it's the same thing. What is different is your body. Your body is different. The body has a space in between your legs, which is different from the man, and you have also the possibility to create milk, which is mainly not possible for most men, even though that can happen sometimes, because Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, it is said that he did have some drops of milk. And I, as a baby, when I was born, I did have a little bit of milk also. So I was, of course, a little baby girl, but I did have already a little bit of milk, and that happens. So, this body is not your nature of your consciousness, it's what you have now. It doesn't matter. You just use it the best you can and enjoy it the best you can. Because anyway, you are all beings, so you don't need to worry too much about what you are, but your body gives you some stability, because these bones and this structure and this heaviness is what helps your practice to become rooted in the moment, because otherwise the mind is too light. And we cannot train our mind easily without the body. So the human body is proper for that. So you as a woman, when you are going to do an abortion, if you are not victim, which is not the topic today, it could be a topic another day, but if you are simply pregnant because you made love, usually you know that it happens if you're not careful. And maybe you were careful, it didn't work. Okay. Maybe you were really not careful. Maybe you just thought that doing abortion every year was the good plan, which I know people doing that. Okay, so that's why I'm daring to say this. It's not right. So, why is it not right? Very easily. It's not right because you're killing somebody and that's it. You don't need to say that's Catholic or that's Muslim or that's from whatever religion. It's just basic common sense. If a woman is pregnant and she doesn't do an abortion, very often she has a baby. In my case, not. I could not have babies. I didn't try, actually, but actually I had natural abortions each time, even though I was okay to have the baby. So you see, I don't have to complain that I didn't have a baby, but I don't have to complain also that I would have one, because actually I was quite happy to think I would have a baby. Maybe afraid, but happy. And the first time I was 14 years old. Okay. So I know what these problems are about. But at one point, there's also another person who made that baby with you. And that other person, it's not like if he's a man and he has nothing to say about it. Because he is involved with you in that production. Either you like it or not. So if you were not a victim, why did you do that? So you see, all these things are really important, and it's not a political question. It is more, how do you behave so that you create merit, but not just the merit of looking good for other people who looks at you, but that you feel your merit inside of you. You feel that there's not any kind of shadows hanging around like monsters under your bed of your mind. It doesn't matter if you did bad things in the past. You can cleanse that with the practice. You can cleanse that with your good practice. And it's really possible. So don't worry if you do practice. Of course, it takes it's quite a work, but you will feel light and you will feel happy and you'll feel much, much freer than before, because you don't identify so much with all these bad things. They just go away, like when you wash your dishes, the dishes are clean again. So that's just as it is the same. You can wash your dishes every day and eat in your dish again and wash it again. But on the idea of creating merit, since merit is very subtle and very deep and very energetical, it's how your intentions of all kinds meet the intentions of all kinds of all beings since ever and forever, and they create something together. And if you as a person with your responsibility of being in charge of yourself as this person who is born as a human being with a certain form, with a certain kind of expressivity, manifestation of life at this moment, which can change, but now that's what it is, that's what you got. As this kind of a person, you just relax and you do your best and you find out what is true. Is it true that it is right for me to do an abortion or not? I don't need to believe what other people say. I need to feel myself in relationship with my practice. Is that the right thing or not? And if I feel it is not, why not assume, even if I'm afraid, to give life to somebody who chose me to come as a door? I mean, if you don't want to give life in your woman body, why did you manifest as a woman? But on another hand, there are many ways not to have one if you don't want to have one because you don't feel appropriate. Look, the nuns, they don't have babies usually, most of them, because they don't make love. Okay, so this was just to give some kind of a topic. I know it is very strong. I know there's lots of reactions. I know people can get angry at me because I say that, and I don't care anymore because I decided that's it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that whoever practices Dharma, because we're not supposed to judge people. We're not, Buddhists are not here to judge people and to say that's bad or good. We're just working with suffering, what creates suffering, and how can we get rid of it, and how can we help others. So we're not helping others if we don't tell them. But on the other hand, if they came to this video and I didn't force them to listen to it, and it's already the 8th video, it's not even a video, it's a podcast, that means that somehow they wanted to hear it. I'm not going to say that to somebody who didn't ask me about my opinion. So also, you know, stealing is not that good, because if you have something and somebody steals it from you, well, maybe you can develop the good immune system that you would offer whatever was stolen. But even like that, the natural feeling is the feeling of being betrayed, no, or of being hurt. So we don't steal people. We don't take from them things. So all of this is how you learn to practice Dharma. And I'm not going to go through all of it. I've been talking about it a little bit, but what I was going to tell you is that now the plan for the future, from this podcast on, is first that most of the videos will be podcast with images, and I will not film myself anymore except if suddenly I really want to. And the podcast, even if it's a video, will be transformed in a podcast for the SoundCloud. So my main places will be SoundCloud and YouTube, but I will try to, of course, advertise a little bit on other social media, slowly. Okay. If anybody wants to help me, you're welcome. I will be very honored and happy to be helped, because I'm not the best person for, to classify and organize and make things archive. It's not I'm much better at first thought, best thought. Okay, so how are we going to do that? There's going to be one part that's going to be about the body, and the body I'm going to work with my own experience as a practitioner with the body. I'm going to also publish sometimes how I train my mantras, being in the same time creative, because I always did that. I always sang my mantras and my practices with creativity. It doesn't mean I'm such a good singer, I'm not, but I just like to be very sincere, and I noticed that when I do the songs from my own inspiration, it is easier to be concentrated and sincere and full-heartedly involved. So I'm using instruments a little bit like drums, and then I suddenly noticed that if I'm sitting and I have a damaru on my side, a damaru is a kind of a drum, and then I don't want to go upstairs, downstairs, get up to get a real drum because I don't have it near my place. It's not like if each time I practice I have to have all this paraphernalia of things. So like imagine now I do have the bell and I do have the vajra and I have the damaru. Well, I can use the damaru and just beat with the damaru with my fingers. Why not? Why not? What's the problem? There's no problem. So I'm not at all, I want to say this, despising the traditions, because I respect them and I even love them, I adore it. The traditions. And on another hand, as I'm not trained in the traditions properly, because I always kind of lived my practice in solitary retreats. I don't know why my masters always put me in solitary retreats, and then as I was an artist I was always hanging around all over the world, so I could not be together with people always practicing the same kind of ritual, the same kind of way. And now I'm older and I just notice I don't want to get involved in that too much, because I'm not good at it. I'm much better in inventing things, and probably my style is going to be more related with, I would say, the kind of proposition coming from Dzogchen, Great Perfection, which is to be as simple as possible. I'm not pretending I'm a Dzogchen Ma. I'm just saying I suppose that my way of doing things is going to be like that, as simple as possible, and on another way I will go through the Tantra practices from the point of view of an artist, which I am and have always been, which is to feel free, but in the same time I do respect the traditions and I do refer to them. So I thought also, so I told you, the body will have videos. I will ask my friend Carolina Fonseca to film me, and we will have these mantras, which are more like maybe inspiring for you, or maybe they could be helpful or not, doesn't matter, you don't need to listen to them. And also, if people want us to meet by Zoom and to do some kind of a meeting and talking together, we can do that, but I will only do it if at least 3 people want it. So if 3 people want that, we will do it when we can do it, all the 4 of us, including myself. But of course we could be more. And the last thing is that I'm going to start to work with commentaries from masters. So I will probably go to different commentaries, mainly from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, or Khenpo Tsultrim Gyatso, or Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, or Ringo Tulku Rinpoche, or Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, if I didn't forget anything. Maybe sometimes Tsultrim Alyone. So I will mainly, or maybe even more traditional text, I will go through some commentaries and use them as a basic to keep on working on the view, because the view never stops, no? You start, all this far it was working on how to get ready to start, how to think about precious human being, human body, to think about impermanence and karma, and what are the sufferings of samsara. So this is like the basics, to create some motivation and to understand the Four Noble Truth, which is the truth that there is suffering as a human being who is born in the world, or an animal, or a ghost, or a monster of war, or even the gods suffer. And there is a path to be free from suffering. So as a human being, the main suffering was to be born, to be sick, to be old, and to die. But there is a way to free oneself from suffering, which means to awaken to a state of consciousness in which we are not fully hypnotized by the physical realm. And that is because we go through the 12 nidanas, the 12 interdependent conditions. So I never talked about these so far, but I will in the future a little bit. I don't consider myself very good at them, but I will do my best and look for good commentaries about them. Because the thing is that all these basics, they end up to be the whole thing. It's just that later, when you start to go on the Mahayana path, you have tools, and when you go on the Vajrayana path, you have other kind of tools. And when you come back to the Dzogchen, it's like reintegration of the simplicity of the awakened mind always present within your own presence. But as far as this is not really what's happening, even if we do love and enjoy Dzogchen view, and Dzogchen is in Tibetan, it's the Mahasandhi, the, how you say, great perfection or great accomplishment. So if we are not at that level, which is rarely the case, because when you are at that level you don't need to listen to me anymore unless it's just for fun. You just go a little bit back to the basics or back to the Mahayana. This depends. What is it you need, no? Or back to the Vajrayana. It can happen also that you need your Hinayana alone home, you need your Mahayana in the life, in social life, and you need your Vajrayana to dream at night, for example. There is a saying that says that you look like a Hinayana practitioner, but in secret you are helping beings, and in the very secret actually you are Tantrika. That would be usually the best, more than showing off. The showing off stuff is dangerous for yourself, and it's dangerous also for others, because they will feel inspired to show off as well. And then we have lots of people showing off in competition. So, yeah, that's it. So this is more or less the plan. It's a little bit more clear than before. And of course, I want to insert of all of this sometimes some free videos that don't have to be completely included in the framework we talked about. That could be like, for example, how can you create a song, or how can you create a dance, or how could you take, like, for example, your generosity when we will study the 6 paramitas, which means going beyond. It's like some qualities that are beyond duality. So it's like generosity is not just that you give things, but it also that you train yourself to go beyond the idea that you are given something, or that something is being given, or that somebody needs you to give it. You go beyond that. So that's why you say para. Para is above, like parapluie in French, or paratonnerre in French. You have lots of words with para. I suppose they come from Sanskrit too. So paramita is like, it's beyond the other shore of the river. So when you practice the paramita, you can really be creative. You can do art about the paramitas. I tell you, because I did that and it helped me very, very much. It helped me incredibly. So this is something we can relate with, which would be very much in the realm of the Danza Duende project that I created. The Danza Duende Network project, which is still completely alive and mainly directed by a few people. I would say the people that are mostly involved in this would be like Carolina Fonseca and Alessandra Santonce and Anastasia Franchiviglia. I cannot say her name properly. And there's a lot of staff also with Pascal Goubert, and with in Belgium, or Nino Robin, which is more inclined to the Gypsy Duende. And you have also lots of people around these people. I just said the names. I am not involved anymore in working since a long time, but I always supported this network I created, and I will support it again with these videos and audios, so podcast. So like in this intuitive Dharma study, if I do have a podcast or a video that is about art, it will also be included in the Danza Duende network. So this is it. Thank you very much. I wish for you a very nice spring, and this was wonderful to tape.